Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Renegade Operative. I hope you guys are having a fantastic night. I hope you and your families are safe, and I hope you have a nice holiday, which is coming up on Monday, Martin Luther King Day. I have ran into an article about a few days ago. I haven't had the chance to highlight or touch up on it due to the fact that I've been so busy, but this article caught my eye for several distinct reasons, and I'm going to list why later on. But it says Uncharted 4 won't be 60 FPS if it harms the player experience. Bruce Stratley, the co-creator of Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us, has came out and said in Edge magazine that the demo we saw last year was running at 30 FPS, though the game is achieving a higher number overall. Stratley also went to confirm that we're actually above 30 FPS, but we locked it for the PlayStation Experience demo. Stratley said, "We're going to do whatever it takes to make the game that we want to make. If it means we can go over 60, but lose something that could really impact the player's experience, then it's our choice as developers to say, well, we're going to go for experience over the 60 frame." My opinion on this recent turn of events is that it's rather disheartening to see Naughty Dog go back on some of their premises that they told Eurogamer, and I'll leave the link below so people can be able to see it and take a look at it themselves. I'm going to take just little excerpts out of it, but it seems that they wanted to sort of move on from some of the technical limitations that they did with The Last of Us, and that they wanted their next gen properties to be at a full 1080p 60 frames per second. I obviously believe that as long as there's not any technical limitations on Uncharted 4, that the game should be freely running at 60 FPS instead of 30, for the reason being 60 FPS produces a smoother amount of gameplay as opposed to 30 FPS. But if there were technical issues like bugs or glitches or things that just didn't make it mesh well overall, then I have no problem with the game being locked at 30 frames per second, just as long as the game is good. Obviously, as long as it handles well, it operates at a much higher plateau than the other Uncharted games before it. That's totally perfect for me. Personally, I would love to see them sort of go back and at least experiment. There's a video which I'm going to highlight right now that has Uncharted 3 in 60 frames per second, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I believe that they did a fair job in having Last of Us remastered at 60 frames per second. I personally believe the game operated much more smoothly that way as opposed to the PS3 version. I also think that the 60 frame per second option shouldn't completely be off the table just yet. You look at things like The Last of Us Remastered, where the need for 30 frames per second was pretty much an optional choice. You could go back if you want to relive the cinematic experience, and if you want to experience 60 frames per second at will, you can go ahead and you can toggle that back on as well. I think that personally both frames per second should be an option, so if people think that one is better over the other, then they obviously have the choice on the table to choose between the two. The worst case scenario about this is that I don't want Naughty Dog to backtrack even further when the game is going to be launched, and I don't want them to say when it's time for the game to go gold, they have everything ready, they have their vision in mind, they have all their ideas implemented. I don't want them to go back and then say, well, you know, we kind of messed up here. We really wanted this sort of option in the game for players to have their frame per second higher, but you know what? I think we're just going to make a remastered version in 2016, and we're just going to grab all of your money and think this is a justifiable cost. There's no way I will support something like that. I hope that they have their guns loaded when it comes to the player experience, and they know what's good for the game overall, and it's brimming with content, and it has just some awesome multiplayer and single player segments that will keep us roped for a long time until their next outing. So, this is Renegade Operative, and I'm signing off of Gaming Discussions. I personally believe that if they were going to tinker around with the frame rate for both 60 FPS and 30 FPS, that there should at least be an experimental option of 60 FPS and 30 FPS, just like it was in The Last of Us Remastered. One could argue that they are moving forth with the graphics and it might be too intensive for something like 60 FPS, but I doubt it at this point. I think that if they did have enough time to implement something like that, they can work on it. Case in point, Metal Gear Solid 5, absolutely amazing looking game on the Fox engine, and it runs at 60 FPS, so we're talking about next gen only. Now, obviously on last gen consoles, Metal Gear Solid 5 runs at 30 FPS, but you see what I'm sort of getting at here. It seems that last gen sort of held back some of the capabilities for certain games to run fully at 60 frames per second while look good doing it. Now that they have this technology and the PlayStation 4 can run these games, well, mostly just fine. Like Infamous First Light ran it at 60 FPS, so if games like that can run it just fine, I doubt that the graphics are the problem. It's going to be more in line to technical limitations, but what do I know? I'm not a game developer. There could be a myriad of problems going on with Uncharted 4 if they don't implement it. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that the game should run as fluid 60 FPS, or would you accept that if there was some sort of technical limitation that you would have set the game at 30 frames per second? Again, this is Renegade Operative signing off of gaming discussions. I hope you guys enjoyed it, thought it was fun. I hope there's a nice healthy section in the comments that describes all this, and you guys take care.
So long, boys.